What is up, Nerds Nation? Welcome to the Effin' Nerds podcast with the most dynamic duo in all of podcasting. I'm Nick Denizio, and sitting across me is my dude, Martin Moreno.
A.K.A. your mom's favorite podcast.
Your mom's favorite podcast.
Yes.
Today we are recapping episode 3 of WandaVision, now in color. Before we get started, though, if you're watching on YouTube, please subscribe and hit that thumbs up. And if you're listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or anywhere else, please check back each week as we try to upload new content for you guys to listen to.
Yes.
So this will be a spoiler-heavy discussion of episode 3 of WandaVision. So if you have not yet checked it out, please go check it out and then come back for our awesome breakdown and all the Easter eggs and all that good stuff. Mm-hmm. So we are picking right up from episode 2, and we're now in the 1970s. Wanda is pregnant, and as she and Vision are preparing for an accelerated delivery, Wanda's powers are starting to go haywire, and they cause all kinds of fucking shenanigans and shit.
Yeah.
So I guess we can kind of start off with like the opening credits and like I guess the aesthetic of the episode now that we're in like the 1970s. So I mean, if you guys are familiar with the Brady Bunch, the opening credits are very much like the Brady Bunch with all the little
like the hexagons
and stuff, and putting like picture in pictures, and then also too like their house, like the set design is
the interior.
The interior is very much
it's
like
almost
the Brady.
Pulled straight from the Brady Bunch.
Yeah, like with the wood paneling, the floating staircase.
The stair was like that was like the big thing. Like that fucking
Yes.
staircase to me right away. I'm like, holy shit, this is just like the Brady Bunch.
Right, and then even what they're wearing, I feel like some of their clothing was kind of in that same, like almost like an homage to like what like, you know, between Brady Bunch, Partridge Family, like all that,
fashion
that
days.
style. Yeah,
for sure.
You know, kind of going into it, you know, how'd you feel about the episode kind of as a whole?
As a whole, I really enjoyed this episode. I thought it was definitely the best one yet. I know we've only had a small sample size in the 3 episodes that we've gotten, but I enjoyed this one the most. We've also gotten kind of more information now as to what's going on.
It seems like we're getting more and more.
We're getting a little bit more and more, and this is something to kind of go back to what we discussed last week of how, you know, if Marvel had dropped just one episode last week, then there could have potentially been like a little bit more of like an angst or more like anxiety, kind of like trying to figure out what's going on.
Right.
But the fact that they kind of released 2 episodes gave us an idea of what they're doing. The second episode having a little tease, and now the actual second episode from the first day that it was released, having a little tease at the end with the beekeeper, and now the second week of its release, we're getting like a little bit more. So I think it was smart on their part to do that rather than kind of prolonging an extra week, if that makes any sense.
Right.
Because, you know, the first one doesn't really give you anything.
Exactly.
It just tells you it's weird and there's some shit going on.
Yeah.
The second one, you get a little bit more of like kind of idea of like who's behind it, that Wanda may be in control.
Right.
Now this one gives you a little bit more on top of that.
Yeah, and then especially how the episode ends, you really see like, all right, like we kind of now have an idea of what's going on here.
So for like the all sort of like ADD impatient like fans out there and like audience members, and I totally get it.
Yeah.
You know, you don't want to like lose members. You don't want to lose viewers. It was smart on their part to kind of release the first 2, you know, just kind of get the palette wet, and then kind of the second one in color, a little bit more fun with a little bit more information or teases as to what may be going on.
Right, and I also think too that if you're up to episode 3 now at this point, you kind of see a pattern here, and that as each episode goes by, you get a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more. So with episode 4 coming up, which we can also assume is going to be set in the 80s, I imagine there's going to be a pretty big reveal coming up.
Right, because like you said, like episode 3, but in the span of 2 weeks.
Right.
You know, so you don't lose that sort of like I said, that angst of like, you know, maybe kind of losing your fan base because they're confused or they're not like, you know, they're not about it. They don't like the setting, because people have complained about that.
Oh, I know people have complained about it.
You know, but again, we're still on board. We love it. Like you were talking about the opening scenes. I'm so excited, like, to see all the opening credits moving forward.
Yeah.
Because you imagine they're gonna have a different one all the time.
Well, and I also think too that I do love, you know, that there's like these little things to look forward to each week with this show. You know, so it's like now we're in the 70s, so everything is like from 70s sitcom. You know, like, and you know. I think my favorite so far, though, has been the second episode where we got like that Bewitched sort of I Dream of Jeannie animated opening.
In terms of intro, that was probably my favorite intro too.
But I just love how they're just playing up to it, like and then they're going full blast. Like we're playing homage to each decade of sitcoms.
And the second it opened up with that serious shot and that little music, that din din din, like the second it happened, I was like, oh, this is so good.
I also noticed too, I feel like that the laugh track in this one too is way more intense. Like I feel like it was so constant, and I don't know if it was used a lot. So I don't know if that was like if that's how it was in the 70s too.
Right, and that's something I picked up on like the following views, have like a little, almost like everything they did was like a laugh track.
Yes.
And some were like louder than others, but it was very constant throughout the episode. But yeah, like we said, overall really fun episode. I really enjoyed it. I loved the opening scene. Like I said, the second episode, the Bewitched one, is still my favorite opening intro.
Yes.
However, this has probably been my favorite episode so far, and just like I'm ready to like.
I know. We're ready to dive
in.
All right, so let's dive in here. So I guess we could talk about Wanda's pregnancy, and kind of going into it. Obviously, it's like this accelerated thing, and the thing that I noticed too is that it really picks up right where episode 2 left off, but nobody has a sense that we're in like a different decade.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, and like, cause obviously they talk about it, like Wanda, 12 hours ago you weren't pregnant. Now all of a sudden you're pregnant. So obviously like.
It's like a jab. It's like, hypothetically, where would the baby be at 12 hours into the labor?
Right. Yeah.
And but it was but that's a good point. They literally pick up right where they left off in a different time, in a different decade, different setting, different clothes, everything. The house is completely different.
Right. But in terms of like the timeline, it's like these are like days. Like this is like the next day it feels like.
Right. It's literally like the next morning, so to speak. But you don't lose that at all. You're still like in it, and you understand what's going on, and well done.
Well, all right. So obviously like a lot happens leading up to this pregnancy, but I want to talk about when her kids are actually born, and obviously it ends up being twins, and it's Tommy and
Billy,
yeah. So Tommy and Billy, and obviously Tommy and Billy have a pretty big significance in the comics. I think in one iteration they're part of the new Avengers, right?
The Young Avengers.
The Young Avengers. That's what I mean. Yeah, yes. Young Avengers. Yeah. So is there any other kind of like cool details like about them?
Well, this is something that I wasn't aware of. That my buddy pretty much filled me in afterwards when we were just like fucking going crazy and discussing the episode. Essentially, Wanda, since Vision cannot have kids, obviously, since he's a robot,
right?
Wanda essentially steals dark energy from Mephisto to create the babies.
Right.
Obviously, the babies are born. Mephisto gets obsessed, so he takes her soul back. And in this whole idea of Mephisto kind of being a big player in this series is starting to become more and more evident. Right. So if that is the case, something that we will get a little bit into, then that could have ties, like you said, into why maybe Agnes is there, about maybe what's going on, about why Geraldine is there, and who could possibly be in control of everything.
Jesus Christ, Nerds Nation.
Yeah, but my buddy told me that like, at one point she used Mephisto's like essentially power to create these kids.
Yes.
I was like, holy shit.
Well, so that's the thing though. So with the whole thing playing on reality, what's real, what isn't, are the kids real? Like, are the kids actually there?
I think so.
I think so too.
I think so, man.
Yeah,
and I think Wanda actually did really kind of
like have kids.
Well, we'll get it. Like, I have my whole speculation.
Well, I was gonna say too, because when you talked about her drawing dark energy from Mephisto, like that just blew my mind. I was like,
Me too.
Like at that point, like you just blew the doors off. Like this is what's going on right now. Mephisto is actually there. I do think whatchamacallit, Agnes is Agatha Hargraves. I'm buying
Agatha
Harkness. Agatha Harkness. Yeah, yes. I'm buying into all this. I said Hargraves. I'm thinking Umbrella Academy.
Umbrella Academy, correct.
Which is a little bit of a reference to what we also think is going on.
We might
here,
get into.
That we might get into.
Yes.
So yeah. I mean, in terms of like the kids, I mean, I guess that's pretty much it, right? There's no other crazy significance or reveal. Although it was pretty funny when Geraldine is near like the crib, that one, whether it's Tommy or Billy, gives like that fucking
like
nasty
evil
side eye,
some Rosemary's Baby, some like Omen shit. I loved how creepy this episode was. Even just a stork like lurking in the background was like a little creepy.
Right.
But yeah, towards the end, like this is, I'm still debating if this is one of my favorite shots in the MCU, but when Vision quickly runs back into the house after having that really weird conversation between him, Herb, and Agnes.
And then obviously Wanda has the confrontation with Geraldine.
It's like going simultaneously. It's so well done. The way they're cutting back and forth, and and it's building up.
It's building that tension.
And you're like, what's going on? But the second Vision runs back in, and she's standing over the babies, and the music, it's like very eerie and creepy.
It's a little bit of a slow pan out
of
her.
And then the aspect ratio adjusts.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know if you ever seen The Brood. It's a David Cronenberg film.
I haven't seen The Brood, no.
I think it's also 70s. I believe it's 79.
Okay.
Fuck. These are the things that I gotta look up.
Bro, I got it, bro. I got you. Okay. Go, keep going.
Right, so the movie is essentially about this like woman who's like creating these
1979.
Yes.
Yeah, there you go, man.
Boom. Give me some, bro.
Oh yeah.
It's essentially this like woman who's creating these like mutant babies. And like these like mutant babies are like connected to her through like in a mental state, and like they're going out and like kill. So whenever she gets angry, so if I'm the woman and I'm angry at you, the baby's gonna go and kill you. It's a crazy film, but it's it's like classic Cronenberg.
It also kind of feels like that. Now that you're just describing it a little bit, I wouldn't be surprised if they're pulling some of that influence as well. You know what I mean? Like influence of that time period. Yeah,
right.
For
but
sure.
Like even when I think of like the poster, when I think of images of the Brood, it's like her standing there, just like that frame instantly shot me back to like David Cronenberg like vibes. And I just love I loved the creepiness aspect of this. of this episode. And if we do believe that Wanda is going a little mad, then I feel like we're going to get more and more into this, and I'm pumped.
Yeah, I would also agree, man. We're definitely dipping into more of like the almost like horror type aspects, and like, you know, and I always love to say about the show how it has
madness.
like the weird shit and the madness, yeah. But you know, like there's that one scene where Vision goes out to say hi to Herb, and he starts like chopping through like the concrete with his hedge clippers,
like
and
the
it's
glitch,
just, and it's like a glitch almost, and it's just creepy, and like with the laugh track playing in the background, like as you're watching this, it's a little unsettling, you know. And this really like dives into, you know, the fact that we think that Mephisto is coming in.
Before you really get into that though,
yeah,
since I mentioned glitch, I want to get into the other glitch in the episode.
Oh yes, where Vision
was so good.
Yes, Vision starts to realize, and I think he says something along the lines of like, you know, there's something wrong here, Wanda.
Yes, I know what you mean. But it's more than that, isn't it? This room, this is hard. Dinner. Outside with Herb. I think something's wrong here, Wanda. Yes, I know what you mean.
And then it's like a subtle that you almost think you pressed a button.
Yes.
Like I remember when I was first watching, I'm like, did I press something?
Right.
And it's like a very subtle, like little.
It's a legit glitch.
It's a legit reset.
Yes.
And when we were like joking around between that and Herb, how it's almost like a glitch in a simulation. And Marvel, being like the smart fuckers that they are, they drop some names throughout the movie. They kind of inception stuff in my head.
Yeah.
To the point where it made me want to watch Ultron afterwards.
Right.
And I'm glad I did.
Yes. Well, I was gonna say too, like obviously, like some of the big names that get dropped, one of them being Ultron, you know,
and Pietro.
So
Right.
we're really starting to get into like that Age of Ultron influence now.
Right, where essentially where they came from.
Right.
And like the Age of Miracles and Von Strucker and
Right.
Hydra, which we will also get into with with the commercial.
With the commercial, yeah.
This is why rehearsal is important.
For sure.
We did not rehearse this episode, so
No,
we're kind of winging it.
No. We'll do it live. Fuck it. Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live.
But yes, essentially in Ultron, they kind of, I'm happy I went back to rewatch that because it kind of refreshed some things in my memory of how the Mind Stone is essentially like an interface.
Yes.
So we were talking a lot about how essentially Vision's memory or Vision's essence is somewhere alive. It's existing somewhere like on like maybe like a hard drive somewhere.
Or it's his body that's plugged in somewhere.
Yes,
you know what I mean?
It could be that too, because remember Shuri separated a bunch of stuff before she got attacked.
Right.
So if you know, and since Wanda is created from the Mind Stone, maybe she's also, I guess, in a way, part interface, so she can, in a way, create this sort of like computer simulation,
right,
where she's in control,
right?
You know, something that we'll get into.
Right, yeah.
So whenever shit goes sour, like the Beekeeper or Vision being a computer and is smart,
and almost like snapping out of it a little bit,
you know, being self-aware, because you know AI, the robots are eventually going to take over.
Yes.
Whenever he becomes aware, she's kind of has to like do like a reset button, and that glitch was like a legit reset.
Right.
It was like Vision was supposed to say something. He didn't say it. All right, let me go back.
Right, let me go back. Yep.
Yeah. So just like there's just
well, and then it also doubles down the fact that Wanda is in some sort of control here, and she does not want to break out of this simulation that she's creating.
Right. And I love like the little moment where she like when Vision is walking the doctor out and she like smiles and like hugs the belly.
Yes.
And you hear the track like, oh
yeah.
And it was like so, but that adds to it of how she's happy.
She's happy here, yeah.
And like whether it's Geraldine or Vision like interferes, she kind of takes like control back.
Right.
And I just. Like, we're leading into some shit with Wanda. And again, when you go into Ultron and when Pietro dies in Ultron and she senses it and she, like, screams, like, she sends out this, like, energy blast.
Vaporizes all the other Ultron bots around her.
So, like, you know, we've said many times of how Wanda is the strongest Avenger. And, like, the strongest Avenger not mentally there. Think of Logan.
Right.
When they pretty much classify Charles as like an atomic threat.
Exactly.
Because like, you know, when he loses his mind,
he can just kill everybody.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's mutants, bro.
Yes.
Wanda in her, like originally she is a mutant.
In the comics, yeah.
Oh, so much good stuff. But now let's get back to Mephisto.
All right, so let's talk about Mephisto. So obviously, you know, we've been speculating that there's an underlying threat in this show, and we assume it's Mephisto. Now, after seeing this episode, I'm thinking that the main villain of this entire show is Wanda.
Me too.
Like, I think that's what's going on here. Like, she has some sort of mental breakdown. She's created this weird barrier around this place of Westview, which I think is also it's a real place. And, you know, but it's like, I think you even said it too, is that these between Mephisto, Agatha Harkness, that they're almost kind of latching on as like parasites to her having this breakdown, and they're trying to. There's obviously some sort of motivation here, whether or not Mephisto is trying to control Wanda to get her, to be on his side, to do, basically do his bidding,
or just feeding off of her misery,
that makes him stronger. You know what I mean? And I also do believe that. Agnes keeps referring to Ralph. I think Ralph is fucking Mephisto. I think we're going to see Ralph at some point, and it's going to be fucking Mephisto.
I didn't think about that, but when you mentioned it, I 100% think that's going to be the case.
Yeah, exactly.
I think once we finally do see Ralph, it is going to be Mephisto.
Right.
But to go back a little bit to what you were saying, oh boy, excuse me.
You need to relax.
All the beer from last night. UFC was awesome.
It was awesome.
But to go back to what you were saying, Mephisto is essentially in control of like the hell. It's not like the hell that we actually know.
It's like this dark realm.
It's the dark dimension.
And
we've already gotten like drops, like name drops of the dark dimension in Doctor Strange.
Right.
It's true. She does draw power from the dark dimension.
Now, this line is from Villain's Wiki, so I'm kind of just reading it along because I like to give credit to where we find our shit, unlike some people.
You know what you did? I know what you did!
The real ones will understand what I'm talking about.
Yeah, they know what we're talking about. They know what we're referencing.
Yeah, but
here.
outside his realm, aka the Dark Dimension, Mephisto becomes much more restrained, although still a virtually limitless sorcerer. He is aware of these limits and seeks ways to expand his influence throughout time and space, but also, like many demons, of which we think are going to be like Agatha and Herb,
right?
Enjoys causing misery and deception for no apparent reason other than malice. So that's where I think
it's like, come on, bro.
It's all
there,
place.
man.
I think, it's like Wanda created this world. They latch on like parasites, and they're just feeding off of her like fake, like her fake happiness is not real. That's like tortured because she's sad and she's upset, so she's creating this world, and I think they're all kind of just feeding off of it. And in other iterations, it's like we said before that Agatha is like a friend or foe.
Right.
When Mephisto takes the kids back, Agatha essentially wipes her mind clean. That she ever had kids, so she doesn't she
doesn't remember it. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah, and that could be also a thing too, or maybe Herb and Agatha, they are kind of both. They're under Mephisto's influence too, in a way.
Right, and I was saying too. So you're assuming that Herb is also a part of this too, because of the fact that Agatha was having that conversation with him. You know what I mean? And like, see, but the thing though is that if Herb is in some sort of control, like obviously like Agnes, knows where she is and what's happening right now, obviously because she's feeding off it. I don't know if Herb does know.
I don't think it's. I think they're like demons. So as I'm saying, like Mephisto is in charge, and like in the dark dimension, hell, Mephisto is in charge. No one can challenge him.
Right.
So if these demons are part of that sort of world, and now and he's using them as like pawns in this new world, kind of because you said he loses power here.
Right.
So if they are these pawns, like you don't want to step out of line.
Right.
Because Mephisto will check you. So I think he was trying to.
Right.
And Agatha was like putting him in place. Like, shut the fuck up, because if you say something, Mephisto's gonna fuck you up.
Right.
It's that kind of notion.
So now, do you think all the people in that town are also demons, or do you think that some of them are just unfortunately trapped by this reality that
because
Wanda has
let me
created?
go back to another line.
We'll do it live. Fuck it.
See, this leads me to something else that I have here, a little other research from marvel.fandom.com, aka Marvel Database. So these demonic bodies imprisoning human spirits have been magically altered to resemble the deceased mortal human forms. Mephisto is continually seeking to add more spirits of sentient beings to his realm by inducing living sentient beings to submit their wills to his. Ooh. So he's whether there's like dead people. So these could essentially be like dead souls that he's controlling, that have like submitted to him for like maybe another chance at life while
you haven't even told me this, dude. This is fucking wild.
Yeah,
like, this is crazy.
It's insane. It's all kind of falling into place, and I think this, and even go back to what the doctor said. Such a small town, we can't really escape.
We can't really exactly.
Yeah, and it's a mixture of like Wanda being in control, creating this world, Mephisto kind of feeding off of to create malice, and then having his sort of pawns at play. And here's where we get into Geraldine.
Yes.
Because they say, like, she's new here. She doesn't have any home.
She doesn't have a home.
She has a family. So I think Geraldine is, like, the one who's actually trying to go in there on Sword's behalf.
Yeah, I mean, you
can
kind of tell that, too, especially, like, when, Wanda's kind of looking over her kids, and she mentions that she had a brother, and then, Geraldine drops the line. He was killed by Ultron, wasn't he? So
and we get that great moment when she starts singing Sokovian. And it's so creepy.
Yeah, it's creepy as fuck.
Oh, my God.
He was killed by Ultron, wasn't he?
What did you say?
Why did you say that name?
This is where we also get the side eye from the baby too. But yeah, so obviously, like I think we can assume that she's very well aware of what's happening in this simulation. She's been sent in by SWORD. And obviously, like that, not supposed to like why are you wearing the sword symbol on your
But
on
it's
your
so
thing? Like, come
cool
on,
because
man.
like
I know it's cool, but it's
it's
just like come on,
the fact that
what are we
she
doing,
was,
Geraldine? Be
it's
better.
the fact
Be
that
better.
she was wearing it this whole time, and we just don't acknowledge it.
Right.
But we acknowledge it the second Wanda acknowledges it, because then when you rewatch, you're like, she was wearing that.
She's wearing the whole fucking time. Yeah,
We didn't even notice
What are you
it.
doing, Geraldine?
Not even that, but like the fish pants.
Right, the
which
fish
is like
pants.
a really fun gag.
Yeah. But obviously we know that that's Monica Rambeau, and so she's probably I think whatever's happening with Wanda, everyone is well aware of it. That's why I'm also curious to see we assume that Doctor Strange is going to come in to kind of set up the movie since Wanda's in it, but I'm also curious to see if we get any other Avengers that pop in here, because like obviously this is some event that's happening. They're trying to keep it contained. She's part of the Avengers, so I wonder if we're going to see anybody else. And then so Geraldine is going in, aka Monica Rambeau, and I think she's trying to snap Wanda out of whatever's happening right now.
Right. And last week when you told me that we were gonna talk about SWORD, and I was like, oh, I know what SWORD is, and then I gave like a bullshit half-ass explanation, and I apologize for that. So I'm gonna try to redeem myself.
All right, redeem yourself.
So again, going off of Wiki, SWORD is a sentient world observation and response department. It is a subdivision of SHIELD, and it is a counterterrorism and intelligence agency. So if it is like it's like a subdivision of SHIELD, and we kind of now believe that they're kind of like the I think like they're trying to set up like the new SHIELD, so to speak, and obviously counterterrorism, intelligence, like it all kind of makes sense. Yeah. And the whole thing at the end with Westview, which you spoke about in the comics, Wanda and Vision do kind of set what's the term? They set ground. They
set the groundwork.
No, not set the groundwork. They like when they settle down.
They settle down.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
In the comics, they settle down in a place called Leona, New Jersey, which is a real place.
Right.
It's over by like Edgewater, so it's kind of like it's like right across from like Harlem.
Gotcha.
Like the Hudson's like right across.
Okay.
And Westview is like 10 minutes south of it.
Oh. Okay.
So it is a real place as well. So if they are going off of the comics, which obviously they are, the Westview that we saw could be like they probably could have moved to town closer. Yeah. Which is like the neighboring town. Right. But it also said like welcome to Westview, right? So I think
it's a welcome to Westview, and also the tagline was home is where you make it, which is a nice little play on what's happening.
It's like the fact that they've already they're establishing the Westview here as the Leona, New Jersey version of it. And if you remember Herb, he name drops Hackensack. Yes. In the second episode. Yes. So this whole obviously premise from Captain America.
I was gonna say this isn't the first time the MCU has gone to Jersey.
Jersey is place because it's so close to New York. So it plays a pretty big role in Jersey. Yeah. It plays a pretty big role in MCU. Not that we're from there. May or may not be. Yeah. But it's pretty obvious now that this whole notion of like settling down in Leona, New Jersey they are kind of bringing that here. Yes. Maybe where they are is not Leona, but maybe they're in Westview, which is also like like I said, about 10 miles south. So it's all kind of coming into play, and the sort of comic book influence is really at play here.
Yeah, I would definitely agree too. And in terms of the thing with Geraldine at the end, where she name drops Ultron, that fucking just sets Wanda off. Like why'd you say that name?
Why did you say that name?
Yeah, it was that kind of situation. Yeah. But and then obviously, we get we come to your favorite shot where he's like, oh, what happened to Geraldine? Oh, she had to leave. She had to run home. You know what I mean?
She got fucking blasted
out of there. And then obviously that's
which essentially Wanda saying, get out of my reality.
Exactly.
You don't belong here.
You don't belong here. So that's kind of what.
And you know why she doesn't belong there? She doesn't have a family. She doesn't have a home.
Right.
Because she's trying to help her.
Wanda
doesn't want to be helped.
Nope, doesn't want to be helped.
You get the fuck out of here. Get the fuck out of here. I don't want to hear that bullshit.
And then, that's kind of like the big reveal. And we see, SWORD basically come up to meet Geraldine. And then we sort of get we don't get a full view of it. It's kind of like a side view as the episode's panning out. There's all these big lights kind of kind of focused on, we referenced that it was kind of like the shimmer from Annihilation. So
correct.
obviously they're in some sort of bubble.
Yeah, it's
around
like a
Westview.
simulated bubble.
Bubble, basically, yeah.
And SWORD has essentially set up camp right outside of it to monitor it. It could be like a shimmer situation when this thing popped out of nowhere, and then that's what I'm saying, bro. I'm so excited to see how everything is going to like how SWORD found out about it, like what was going on. We're always going to get like some sort of telling of how this was created.
Right.
Are we gonna get a lonely shot of Wanda out in the field somewhere where she just decides to just start doing this shit?
I know.
And this is another great line that I found online. This was from Screen Rant. But pretty much they said that in the Avengers Disassembled, in that event, Wanda's memories of having kids were triggered after a careless moment by another Avenger, which is essentially what happened here.
Okay.
Geraldine makes that kind of careless comment of Ultron, and she just snapped.
Yeah.
She was not having it.
No.
So it's like these little things that are, like I said, just keep popping up here and there. They're just making it so much fun to watch, and just gives you so many Leo moments. Like
yeah, exactly. Like, you're like, oh, I'm catching that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm catching that. So it's a blast, man. I'm loving this so far.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's pretty awesome. And then just some other like random things that I noticed. I also have to shout out Den of Geek because they did like a really awesome like Easter egg breakdown. Agnes is wearing a brooch, which if you don't know what a brooch is, it's like some kind of like ornament, and I think it's like kind of like was in the center of what she was wearing, like on her thing. And they said that it almost looks like that it has 3 witches on it, and one of them is holding a scythe.
A sickle.
Is it a sickle?
Well, it's the same thing.
Scythe.
Yeah, same thing. I always just think of like Billy and Mandy.
Oh yes,
because Billy used to be like, "What'd you do with your sickle?"
Yeah.
But yeah, it is a same shit.
Right, and then obviously we didn't talk about this. The commercial, the ad for the episode was obviously we kind of go back to Hydra like bubble bath or some shit. The woman in the episode is the same from the last 2 that we've gotten, and then for not really having, because obviously the first 2 commercials kind of play on Wanda's past. Whereas this one, I think, is more kind of deals with like almost like being like a mother, like they show like the kids kind of running amok. So it's almost like her anxiety is kind of like displayed on like this ad.
That's a great way of putting it. And it's almost foreshadowing too of like what to come. She's obviously gonna have to be dealing with these kids. Something that we didn't mention about is that they inherit that the twins also inherit her and Pietro's powers.
Right.
So one has like the all of Scarlet Witch's powers with the I guess weird shit.
Right. The
one's fast,
the reality.
Weird. Yeah.
One's fast and one's weird. I like that. Yeah.
So like, and they essentially inherit that, and I think they also it's also a little bit of a jab of like how fast the babies grew.
Yes.
Too. So
for sure. And not for nothing, like obviously there are some cast members that are in the show that we haven't seen yet. One of them, if you guys didn't know, is Evan Peters, who played Quicksilver in the X-Men movies for Fox. He's on this show. My assumption is that, we're going to get to the point where Wanda's kids are grown up because of this whole accelerated rate of the way the show is going. So I'm assuming one of the kids is going to be Evan Peters, and I don't know if it's going to be a play on Quicksilver from the Fox movies. Like, that's why I don't know what's really happening here.
Yeah, because once we get to like 90s is like the Full House.
Yes.
So that's when we'll get to, and then maybe like 2010s when you think of like other family sitcoms. That's like
Modern Family,
which
we could probably get.
Yeah.
And eventually, like, this is going to catch up to where we're out of the sitcom stage and we're just in,
and then everything's going down.
We're in the MCU.
Yeah, it's like we said.
We're back in reality.
I'm so sure that the last like 2 or 3 episodes are just gonna be bonkers.
Yeah,
it's gonna be just wild.
Yeah, I'm definitely really excited to see where this goes. And I guess we can kind of come up to our last point here, which this episode really kind of hammers it home that even though we have, other people and other characters at play here, Wanda's kind of the villain, and it's almost like she's a ticking time bomb before she explodes. Right. And you also said this too, that they're almost kind of setting up, because who the fuck knows when we're going to see the X-Men again in the MCU. Obviously we know it's coming, but it's going to be a while, but there's a good chance we're never going to see a proper adaptation of Dark Phoenix.
At least not for a long time.
This kind of feels like what they're somewhat setting up,
or what it possibly could be,
and that when Wanda finally does explode and she's kind of like a mad Wanda, this leads into Doctor Strange
and the multiverse of madness.
And that Wanda is actually, I think it's going to be Mephisto's going to be the villain, but Wanda is going to be under the control of him. And going into Doctor Strange is going to have to deal with a crazy Wanda.
Yeah. Whether Mephisto is, I didn't really think of that, but I think that would be a fun kind of thing to do where, turn it on its head.
Right.
And then like you said, when we've already gotten Dark Phoenix twice. Not only has it failed, but it's failed hard.
Yeah.
Like really bad. So like you said, I don't think we're going to get it anytime soon. And this could be like
which is a shame, man, because if you get a proper Dark Phoenix adaptation, it would be so fucking good.
It would. And there's a lot of, but again, it's one of those things that you kind of in a way have to build up to.
You have to build up to it. It's a big event.
And now we're with Wanda. We've had Wanda now for like what, 6 years?
Yeah, since because like, Ultron was what, 2015?
I believe it was 2015. It's like 6 years, multiple movies. We're very familiar with her. So this could be like your kind of like Infinity War.
Yeah.
It wasn't like a proper adaptation, but it was their way of doing it. Same thing with Logan. It was like their version of Old Man Logan.
Right.
So now this could be their sort of take on Dark Phoenix. And I know it's not like the true, but like I said, it's been butchered twice already. It's a story that a lot of people want to see, and it would be fun to have this notion of like Wanda losing her shit and becoming like this Dark Phoenix type of villain.
Right.
And obviously Doctor Strange, we've had multiple Avengers crossing over in films.
Yep.
So Raimi, like you think of Drag Me to Hell, like his sensibility, like it could be a lot of fun if they do decide to go that way.
You know, and also too, especially like if Mephisto like is introed here and then carries over into Doctor Strange, like that, like the more like sort of horror aspects that Raimi is known for, he can have a blast with this character.
Especially like I said, Evil Dead, Drag Me to Hell, these sort of like demonic entities, like evil, like
it'd be so good.
Evil notion, like it's gonna happen, bro. That's really what it is.
Yeah.
You know, you can't tell me otherwise. It's definitely. I feel like there's just too much things that have lined up that we like fucking nerds have like cracked down and like sweated over. Like, oh my god, look at that! It's just like to me, everything is at play here, and I just feel like everything that we've discussed. I just like that's gonna happen. And look, if it doesn't, fine.
I know, yeah, but we could be totally wrong here.
But I'm convinced. Yeah, like I'm so convinced that like it is Mephisto.
I think so too.
It definitely is, and the way that the fact that it's leading into Doctor Strange, and
there's just too many references. There's too many references. There's too many signs that all point to like who these characters are and what's happening. Like if it's something completely different, as long as it works, I'm cool with that. But as of right now, like where we stand in watching these episodes, there's just too much that they're throwing at us to not think that this is what's going to happen.
Right. Exactly.
You know?
And everything will play out, but I'm so excited to see it all play out.
I'm really excited too.
Me too. Like I'm just like I cannot wait for the next episode. And
it's gonna be in the 80s.
It's gonna be in the 80s, but like for me, it's like I'm looking for that final stretch.
I know.
I just know it, bro. Those last episodes are gonna be wild.
And not for nothing, but if you people have been complaining about this show from the start, when it fucking gets good, you can't come back on the bandwagon. You're off.
Hey guys. No, you're done.
You're off. You get off the train. We're full steam ahead. We're moving forward. Yeah, I know it's gonna happen.
Same show people who were like shitting on Mandalorian, but came back just to watch Luke.
Exactly. This show's amazing. Yeah.
Get the fuck out of here. Get the fuck out of here. I don't want to hear that bullshit.
So it's gonna happen. There's those people out there. It's whatever. But like I said, I definitely think it's going to be like a movie.
Yes.
Broken up into like 3 parts.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah, and I can't wait.
I cannot fucking wait. Martin, is there anything else you want to dive into before we wrap this up?
Just one more thing. Kathryn Hahn, incredible.
Oh, she's incredible.
We can't.
And she was only in like one scene,
but just like
she's
her,
hysterical.
When she likes like the big smile and she like flips the
with the little bell.
Yeah.
Well, I better get going. That macrame is not going to hitch itself.
It's like, oh, Ralph looks better in the dark anyway. Yeah. Just like her big smile, her energy, like her whenever she comes on screen, like you said, she feels like she belonged in this world.
Yes.
Like every single like sitcom interpretation that she's done, like in the past 3 episodes, just feels right. It feels natural. Like she does such a good job adapting to
each decade. Yeah.
And like I just love her. She's incredible.
I do too. Oh, and then one last little detail. The one scene with I forget the one neighbor's name, but he's been heavily featured like now between him and her. But I feel like these are like the two main like neighbors. Norm, yes. Yeah. Where his wife comes in, she goes, Norm, does this earrings like make me look fat? And then the lights go out. He goes, oh, thank God.
Yeah, so good.
Awesome.
So good.
Awesome. But all right, Nerds Nation, that does it for us. Have you seen episode 3 of WandaVision? Did you guys like it? Are you starting to get more on board with this show now? I hope so.
If you're at this point, I hope you've seen it.
I hope you've seen it too. Yeah.
I'm in terms of like us literally just breaking everything
down. Yeah.
Unless the people just like spoilers.
And people just like listening to us, maybe.
That too.
It could be.
We are your mom's favorite podcast.
But as always, guys, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Remember to like this video, subscribe to our YouTube page, and you can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and anywhere else you can see that big, beautiful FN logo. Make sure you guys come back next Wednesday for our breakdown of episode 4. And yeah.
See you guys next time.
See you next week.
Bye.